Good evening, folks. I'm going to redo D for you. Okay, the title is When the House Changes at Night. The first nights were small and easy to explain away. A creak in the hallway, a light left on, a cup of water taken at 2 a.m. You told yourself it was nothing, just age, just a bad night. Then the sounds multiplied and the explanations thinned. What had been background noise, we're learning, became a map of a new landscape you were learning to navigate. Nighttime in the home. Nighttime in a home with dementia is not simply darker. It is rearranged. Familiar rooms feel unfamiliar. Clocks lose authority. The ordinary cues that once guided a day, sunlight, meals, television, fall away, and what remains, a raw, immediate need for orientation and safety. The house becomes a shifting terrain, and you become its choreographer, tracing patterns that didn't exist before. You begin to notice how the air feels different at night. Changed, expected, as if the house itself is holding its breath. You learn that dementia has a nocturnal personality, one that emerges only when the world quiets. The nights become a kind of classroom, teaching you the contours of confusion. The rhythms of wandering, the subtle signs of fear. Making them had forgotten the routines they had taken 1,000 times. You found them standing in the kitchen, hands on the counter, staring at the cupboard as if it might answer a question. Those early wake ups are small tragedies. A person who once navigated a life now searching for a place in the dark. They are also the first clear sign to caregivers that something deeper is changing. The nights reveal what the days can still hide. You start to see patterns. The wake ups often come at the same hour, as if the brain has lost its ability to stay anchored in sleep. Sometimes they wander toward the front door, sometimes toward the bathroom, sometimes toward a room. They haven't used in years. Each path tells you something about their internal map. What remains intact, what is fading, what is already gone. And each time you guide them back to bed, you feel the quiet grief of watching someone lose the ability to recognize the very space they built their life in. The rituals that keep night from becoming crisis. Caregiver, Caregivers invent rituals out of necessity. You learn what calms and what accelerates. A softened light in the hallway becomes a beacon. A familiar blanket folded in the same way becomes a talisman. You leave a chair by the bed so they can sit when they wake confused. You tape a simple note on the door. You are home. It is right. It is night, because words can sometimes be anchors. These rituals are practical and humane. They are not medical interventions, they are acts of translation, turning a confusing world into a sequence of small, recognizable steps. Over time, you refine them. The act, the exact volume of the night light, the scent that soothes, the phrase that steadies. Each adjustment a lesson learned in the school of bedside care. You learn that the tone of your voice matters more than the words. You learn that approaching from the side feels less threatening than approaching from behind. You learn that sometimes the Best best intervention is simply standing still, letting them orient to your presence before you speak. These rituals become the scaffolding that holds the night together. The emotional weight of night. Night brings up a particular kind of vulnerability. During the day, confusion can be buffered by routine and company. At night, the world narrows and fear grows louder. You see it in the way their hands tremble when they reach for the bed rail, in the repeated question that sounds like a plea, where am I? And in the sudden, inexplainable agitation that can flare without warning. For caregivers, the emotional cost is relentless. Sleep fragments into vigilance, guilt, and grief at sit beside exhaustion. You mourn the person who used to sleep through the night, and you grieve the loss of your own rest. Yet beneath the fatigue is a steady tenderness, the small, repeated acts of care that say without words, I am here. There is a loneliness to nighttime caregiving that is hard to describe. The world is asleep, and you are awake with someone who cannot find their way back to rest. You feel the weight of responsibility in your bones. You feel the ache of watching someone you love become frightened by the dark. And you feel the quiet pride of knowing that your presence is the thing keeping them safe. Practical nights and quiet triumphs. Some nights are crises. Some nights are crisis. Others are quiet victories. You learn to read the difference. A slow wandering pace often needs redirection, and a calm voice. A sudden a, a sudden agitated rise may need a change of environment. A walk down the hall, a glass of warm milk, a favorite song hummed softly. You discover that consistency matters. The same bedtime routine, the same route to the bathroom, the same phrase to reassure. You also learn to protect yourself. Short naps, a neighbor check-in, rotating schedule with family. These are not indulgence, but survival strategies. Asking for help does not mean you have failed. It means you are preserving the care you can give. The nights teach you that endurance is not only about staying awake, but about sustaining compassion over the long haul. You began to celebrate small triumphs, a night with only one wake up, a moment when they recognize the bathroom, a morning when they smile and say they slept well, even if you know they didn't. These victories matter. They remembered you that caregiving is not only a story of decline, it's also a story of resilience. Dawn arrives like a small mercy. The house exhales. The person you care for may wake with a smile or with the same confusion as the night before. But the light brings a temporary reprieve. You sit with your coffee and count the hours you managed, the moments you soothed, the times you kept them safe. Nighttime behaviors change the arc of caregiving. They accelerate decisions, reshape routines, and reveal the limits of what one person can do alone. But they also reveal the depth of what one person will do. The hand that steadies, the voice that guides, the patience that returns again and again. The morning is not just the end of the night. It is a reminder that you made it through. You kept them safe. You kept yourself steady. You did what love required. Nighttime caregiving is a long, intimate conversation with vulnerability. It asks it asks for creativity, steadiness, and a willingness to be present in the small hours. It is exhausting and heartbreaking, but it is also where love is most plenty, visible, measured not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, repeated acts that keep someone safe until morning. Okay, guys, that is your that is your D. I will see everybody tomorrow for shows. For now, Gator Wellness, take care, folks.